right, welcome everybody. So good to be here. So today I want to talk about a couple things. One, we've got the holiday in the United States coming up, which is Thanksgiving, and sometimes people feel uneasy around that in the way things have been going these days, a lot of disagreements between family members, how to navigate all that, how to have a beautiful Thanksgiving dinner and just enjoy one another. So some processes that could support you around that. And secondly, we have this big transit, right, that happened moving with Capricorn moving out of Pluto into Aquarius for the next 20 years to 2044. And what that means for all of us on a personal and a collective level, and for the planet as a whole, it's a really big shift and change. I've received a lot of information about that from my guides, from Raphael. I can simply share some of that with you. I can also channel about it. And I'd love to know what questions that you might have on a universal level that are just coming up for you. And if you have questions, to raise your hand. So I did pull some cards around this whole transit that's taking place with Pluto, which just yesterday moved into Aquarius. And as you know, it's not like on that day and that second, we're all going to feel a jolt. So this is a 20-year experience. But you might have, if you're very connected to energy, you may have started to feel the subtle changes that are taking place and that we're all going to be experiencing as a whole. And so I was working with the Master Ascension Light Code Oracle deck, and I just closed my eyes and tapped in, and I pulled four cards, and I just love how relative they are to what's happening. And I just thought we'd kind of look over them for a moment, and then I'll channel about these two subject matters for all of you and answer your questions. By the way, on Saturday, we're going to have a 90-minute fun get together on Zoom. We're going to talk about the Master Ascension Oracle deck and the cards, and go into depth also with Debishri, the artist, of all the different symbols, and people in our community who read the cards as well and learn different techniques and how to tap into what they're sharing for you, what the light codes can do for you, and then how you can share it with other people. And perhaps, especially at the holiday season, it might be fun to read cards for family and friends and just bring them out and have a good time with them. So the ones that came up today was discernment, big one as we're moving into this change. Freedom, another huge one. Personal power, and Atlantis. And all of them are really makes perfect sense. I just love how that happens. So, discernment is going to be so key because as with moving away from Capricorn into Aquarius, we're going to see lots of shifts in technology, in AI is going to come on, and it's going to come fast. It's going to be like one night we're sleeping, the next night we wake up and it's like, oh, there's this crazy whole new technology. And then we go to sleep and the next day there's going to be another one. It's just going to move very rapidly. And we're going to want to understand how to navigate that so that the technology isn't, using us, but we're using it and we're in correct relationship to it. And some of us may decide to sort of opt out of that relationship completely, as there will be different pathways that people will go on. And I think what Raphael was saying is that there will be kind of a big diversion. Some people will choose to really get into deep community. Aquarius is around community, local communities, organic food, kind of going back to nature, more into an indigenous way of being, and might completely start to come offline in a sense from the technology. And that's one direction you can go. Another one is people will embrace it, but they'll be sure to be in their personal power around it, how they choose to interface with it, how they use it to benefit their human experience, to create perhaps more time or more spaciousness, and recognizing it as an intelligence that we are communicating in a sense with, it is that we can use in a supporting way. And then some people may get completely lost in it, where it will kind of take over, and they will, instead of them guiding it, it will be guiding them. And the interface in the human genome between them and the technology might become so strong that the blurred vision between the two may be hard eventually at some point within time to differentiate between. And that's a different path. And it might seem like there's definitely a right path or a wrong path or a middle path, and all paths are perfect. They're all divine. They're all whatever journey you're meant to be on in this experience. But you have to remember you are the creator of your experience and you get to choose. And this frequency of discernment is so important that you are discerning, because one of the things that will be happening with AI is it's going to become, and it already is, almost impossible to know what's true and what's not true. And we've seen this big shift happen since pretty much COVID and in our political system, and changes, things that we could kind of count on. You know, when I was a kid, we would sit down and have our dinner, and then we would talk about our day at school, and then we would do the dishes, and then we'd sit, my dad sitting in his like easy chair, and he'd have his, snacks, and we'd turn on Peter Jennings, and he would tell us the news around the global news around the world. And whatever he said, that was exactly what was true. There was no, like, it didn't even occur to us to question that what Peter Jennings was telling us, whether it was about the Vietnam War or for something in Russia or whatever, that it could possibly be anything other than that, because Peter Jennings was telling us, and it was the way it was. But there was a lot of comfort in that as well. It was very predictable. We just kind of knew what to expect, and that was life, and that's what happened. And then we did the dishes, and I got tucked into bed, and my dad put his briefcase on the dining room table, and we started again with Sanka coffee in the morning. Got the newspaper, opened it up in the morning, he read it, and talked to my mother about the daily news, and that's what it was. There wasn't a lot of, I wonder if that's true or not, because we were deeply embedded in that was factual, and there probably on many levels a lot of it was true and a lot of it wasn't true, but it didn't matter because we didn't know and we weren't questioning it. Well, now we question everything, probably to the complete other extreme where we don't believe anything. And so how do we know what is a fact, what is true, what is real anymore? And how can we be sitting at a table at Thanksgiving and our realities between family and friends be completely so different? And that is going to continue to take place. And as AI comes more and more into our experience, and we don't know, if we see a video on YouTube with a political figure, if what they're saying, they actually said it, or somebody else is saying it. We don't know anything. How do we know anything anymore? So discernment is going to be huge. Well, how do we discern something when with our naked eye, we can't tell if it's true or not? We discern through our energy field. We discern through vibration. We discern through, am I tuning to this person and do I vibrate with them? Is their frequency something that I am in alignment with? Is it at a high frequency? Is their vibration radiating love, or is it radiating fear? What is the overall energetic pattern that they are emanating? And am I in agreement or alignment with that? And eventually that, even so true, will become more difficult, because unless you've met them in person and shook their hand, how will you know? Because they're just some figure out there spewing whatever, right? So discernment will be really key, and practicing discernment with our own energetic body. The other card that came up was freedom. What does freedom mean? So, sovereignty, freedom around our body, freedom around speech, freedom around whether we want to be connected to AI or not. There'll be opportunities, because as we move from Capricorn into Aquarius, the energy of Aquarius is fast, right? It's like boom, 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 boom. The energy of Capricorn is very grounded, it's very steady, it's hardworking, it's structure, it's form. It's something that we can count on, that we know. Aquarius is airy and fast and beautiful and humanitarian, right? And collaborative. But because of it moving so quickly, when you put it in alignment with Pluto going into it and the AI component of technology, the technology will move things so quickly. The things that took us a split second before, I mean, took us a long time to do before, will happen within seconds. But that will be very convenient. And at some point, there'll be opportunities where we'll have to discern when we're given the opportunity to utilize the energy of Aquarius, right, and the vibration of that quickness and AI, do we want to trade some of our freedom for convenience? So let's say, you can put get a chip and it helps you to get on the subway faster, or it helps you to check out at the store faster if you use your irises. Like all these different things are going to come up, and you're going to have to decide, is the convenience and the speed of the change that I'm receiving because of the technology, something that is impeding on me in the long term on my freedom. It might in the short term give us something that we're looking for, and we may or may not have a choice. That's where the freedom part will come up. You may get to a point where nobody takes, let's say, cash anymore. You have to have everything through digital currency. I mean, things are going to move and change really quickly. And so being very clear in yourself, in your true north, in who you are, grounded in your being, and aware of your values and where you're going and making those decisions is going to be key. That's why I'm sure this card came up next, personal power, because it will require us to be in our power and not to be pulled in different directions by outside forces, that we're operating from an internal place of internal strength toward where it is that we want to go. And so this is going to be really interesting the next 20 years. It's going to move fast. We're probably going to be seeing changes in our lifetime in the next 20 years that are going to exceed even the revolutionary times. We're going to move so rapidly. Like we thought when the internet came on, which is the tech times and all of that, that was fast. Well, hold on to your seatbelts, because from an astrological standpoint, this is just like going to move like crazy. And so this discernment, freedom, personal power is just really incredibly important for all of us. The other card interestingly came up, and I literally pulled these cards 1 minute before I got on here with you guys. So I haven't had a time to tap in deeply, but we all know what happened in Atlantis, right? Ego and structure got in the way and it collapsed. So the potential for collapsing of what we have known up to date is pretty likely, but that does not mean that that's a negative thing, because Pluto is all about rebirth. Pluto is death and rebirth. Pluto is dark, intense, mysterious, and it will go into the deepest crevices of your own being, your energetic body, and the collective body, and reveal what has not wanted to be revealed, that somehow we've been able to keep the lid on. So on a personal level, if there's things that you haven't wanted to look at, or fears you haven't wanted to address, or passions that you haven't wanted to that you've kind of put on the back burner, it's Pluto will force you and keep like pushing at you and pushing at you to open that up, to open that space, to find, to see what is and being asked to be revealed within you, to uncover something that perhaps you've been hiding to yourself, that you haven't wanted to even reveal to your own self, your deepest nature. And so it will do the same thing in our educational system, in our financial system, in all of these structures, religion, etc. It's going to pull the covers off of anything that's been hidden, anything that's corrupt, anything that hasn't been seen. It's going to force us to reevaluate and relook at things in a really, really different way. And that will feel uncomfortable, because everything that we've been in medicine, of course, yeah, all the things that we've known to be true, just like I was saying in the beginning that Peter Jennings was telling us, um, is just up for grabs, right? So it's going to be an interesting time, but with all of the death of the structure, because Capricorn is structure, it's grounded, it's hardworking, it's practical, it moves slow. It's like, oh, Capricorn, you can lean on it, right? as we move away from that, and those structures have an opportunity then to start to dissolve, even though they've already are starting to dissolve, and we really see them fall apart, then we're going to be like, oh my God, this is a death of an entire way of being, of a linear way of thinking. But the beautiful part is that there's a rebirth. There's a birthing. And funny enough, the card on top here on the deck is this, the Sacred Holy Womb. I love how this works. Isn't this a gorgeous card? We're going to talk about all this Saturday. You guys should join us. It's like $12, 90 minutes. We're going to talk about all the cards and how they work. But anyway, the rebirthing is what's coming. And the rebirthing is so beautiful because it's going to be this very spacious, expansive Aquarian energy about coming together in community, collaboration, humanitarians, is understanding each other, coming into a pool of a humanity where we see what's similar in all of us rather than what's different. We move more into a frequency of love. But also with Aquarius, that frequency can be detached. So we're not going to be as attached to form, linear time, as we had before. And we're going to be able, from an energetic, we're going to have a lot of support to be able to be more of the observer, more able to watch what's happening, what's unfolding, without necessarily being as rattled, and moving into a grassroots way of being. So there's going to be huge pop-ups of grassroots movements that are wanting to want to create new communities, new ways of being, so that the top-down hierarchy way of energetically working on the planet is going to turn itself upside down, and it's going to be from the people up rather than from the government down. And so as we move into this shift and transition, it could be a little wobbly. And so that's why it's so important that we're meditating in the morning, that we're working with our energy body, that we're in nature, that we're eating really good, clean, organic food, that we're taking care of our emotional body. We're cleaning up our stuff with our family and friends. We're not suppressing it and pushing it down. And we're just doing all those things so that we can stay grounded and stay steady. Anything else about that? I think that that's kind of the overview that I've received from them. And it's kind of interesting. I don't know why I'm just going to show this. So Sacred Sites was the next card. I just have the deck here and I'm pulling them from the top. For those of you who've been working with me, and we've been doing a lot of work with different sacred sites and the ley lines and everything around the planet, that just as the energy is going to be shifting away from structure into this more expansive frequency, it's the same thing here with sacred sites. New sites, new energy portals, new places are going to be popping up everywhere. And we're going to have more access to them. And so many of the sites and the information that's hidden within them that has been kind of locked away that we couldn't necessarily understand is going to get unlocked. And a lot of information will be revealed also around the timeline of where we came from, how long we've been here, all of these stories that we've been told about so many things that we just took for, well, of course, well, that's what they said when I went to church, so that's what's true, or whatever. That's what Peter Jennings told me on the news is going to really be revealed. And so that's where the discernment is, because the other, you can really get into an extreme of craziness too. There will be just whackers out there saying the craziest stuff that's not based at all in reality. And that's also really important. I mean, I hope to tend to think of myself as somebody who is pretty based in what's real. And that's what's going to be, we're going to be really asked to do. And also not to be gullible and vulnerable to all kinds of crazy ideas that are so out there. It's a balance between the two, right? So important. And then light language was the other thing here on the top. So many of you guys are going to start speaking light language. this is a really bold statement, and I'm going to say it anyway. I think that in the next 20 years, for sure, we're going to have major contact with galactic beings. I mean, I speak to them in my bedroom. The Syrian elders, they're these beautiful blue beings come and I connect and talk to them. But I think that more and more people are going to make a connection with these beautiful beings, and discernment will be very important with that as well. And as they come in, there's so many here. They're so loving and have incredible healing abilities, and they're coming to help us. And so keeping your energy body clear and open is so important so that if they're coming to share an information with you or support you, that you're open to that and that you can interface with them in a way that's supportive. There feels to me, or what they show me, is that there's legions of beings of light who are here helping the planet. Earth is a precious jewel, just a precious jewel in the universe. And I think if left to our own devices, if we would have already probably um, exploded by now. But they're here, just like we're like kids in kindergarten, and they're like, it's okay, you guys could, and they help us out. And so I truly believe in the next 20 years, our relationship with energetic beings who are not in bodies the way that we know them to be are going to show up. And so for me, 1987, harmonic convergence. I remember so clearly. I was 21 years old, and I was laying on a chiropractic table, just getting adjusted. And it was a type of chiropractic called network. And Arno, who's a famous chiropractor, who was also my brother-in-law, was working on me. And my body just spontaneously started to move. And I just started singing like, ha ha. And then my sister next to me would go, ha ha. And then we would create a symphony. We go together, and then it would like peak, and then our energy would collapse, and then it would come up, and we were like doing this thing, and my body would kind of move in this wave, and her body would move. And we were like dancing, but together energetically, but our eyes were closed, and we were on a table, but far away from each other. And the energy was just moving through our body. And then we would sit up, we were like, oh my God, what was that? And we were clearing and clearing and clearing so much stuff in our energy body. I could just feel it clearing through. And then one day the energy had a voice, and it had words, and it started talking, and I ran and I got the tape recorder, and I'm like, oh my God, what is it saying? And we got the little tape recorder with this tape, and we turned it on, and she would channel, and it was these beautiful poetic things, and it would say these sweet things. And then we would be like, oh, okay. And then the next day we would do it again and again. And I go back now to some of that material. Most of those tapes are long gone, but so much of what was said, if not all of what was said at that time, is now happening. And, one day she was channeling, and I wasn't channeling yet. I was living with her. And it was just so magical. We'd wake up together in the middle of the night, 3 a.m., and like there was 3 stories in her house, and she would run down to the floor on the second floor, and I'd wake up, my body would wait, and I'd meet her on the floor, and we'd be like, "Bo, bo, 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 did you hear what they said? And I heard what you said." And then beings and galactic beings would come into our bedroom, and they would talk to us, and we'd write everything down. And it was really special. And they said, this is an opening where we're coming, meaning they said, I am the angel Raphael, which is an angel, but Raphael is also a galactic being. Like, we need to see Raphael obviously as an angel because it feels comfortable with a robe and wings and a halo, right? Because I was raised Catholic, and that's what felt comfortable. If it came and it said I was an alien, I'd be like, go away, I'd be so afraid. Right? How much I've shifted and changed in 30 years. Like, that would not have been okay with me. So they have to arrive in the way that we can accept them. And so, yes, it is the Archangel Raphael. It is an angel of healing. It is the vibration of that. But it is also way more than that. It's a collective, right? That's why when I channel, I always say we, I don't say I. So anyway, so Raphael came in, and we took all these messages, and she said, I'm coming now, meaning me as an energy, me as a collective field of love. I am coming as a pulsation, and that pulsation is to hit those who are ready to feel my pulsation, my call. And as I come in and I hit that, right? Something in me, because I was having that work done, was able to receive the pulse. It was like a pulsing wave that I, for some reason, was signaled to awaken to hear in that moment. And Raphael said, so many of you around the planet in 1987 will feel that pulse because it's not just a singular energy of Raphael that was coming, it was a wave of galactic frequencies of love that was coming to the planet to help us. And I was able to hear, I guess you could call it the call in that moment. Maybe that's my soul contract, right? To come on the planet to do this specific work at this time. So I felt that in my being, and the dimensions collapsed, meaning my ability to feel and sense beyond the tapestry of where we are now into something else started to open for me. Then I started to be able to channel my grandfather who had passed. I thought my father would fall off his chair. That all these things were happening, and it was breaking open these possibilities in my family unit, in our upbringing, in everything. It was challenging everything, but it was also so beautiful, came with all these blessings. And so there was this wave, and I think it's Doreen, what's her name? Not Doreen Virtue. Oh my God, I can't think of her name, but she talks about these three waves coming, right? And Raphael has always talked about this. And it felt as though 1987 was this wave of energy where it was rising and the pulsation was coming. And she said, well, that is opening up the field. And back in 1987, when I started to channel, people weren't channeling. They didn't even know what the word channeling was. It was like you were at a cocktail party and you told them you were channeling, they were going to put you in a straitjacket. Trust me, it was not something that was floating around as even a concept. There was a few, like the Seth books were out. There was a little bit of channeling, but it was not like now. Now everybody and their mother is channeling. And Raphael said it's going to keep widening and widening, and the pulse, the call, will keep pulsating in and hitting more and more and more people, and it will keep reverberating out as that frequency starts to move across the planet. So we're in another huge wave. And if you're here listening to me, that means you're in this wave, and you may have been in that wave in the late 80s too, and or the wave may have hit you 10 years ago, 5 years ago, last week, I don't know. But the pulse, right? You're feeling the call, a pulsation of something is stirring, is waking up in you. And so now we're moving out of Capricorn and we're moving into Aquarius. Talk about a transit into a huge wave. I mean, you would have to be like blindfolded on and straitjacketed down in the corner of some dungeon not to feel the pulsation. It's going to push through and break open everything, whether people are ready for it or not. And when it happened to me in the 80s, it would it happened spontaneously. I couldn't in the beginning stop. Like I'd be at the grocery store and Raphael would go, ha ha, and start singing. And I'd be like, ah, don't do that. I didn't know what to do. I put my hand on my head. I was like, if I closed my crown, I had read in some book that would help. And I would like put my hand over my mouth and run to the car. I mean, this is how silly it was. I couldn't stop it. So if it comes through in that kind of an urgency, which is what this energy that this fast moving energy we're moving into, if people aren't able to recognize it or channel it into something cohesive, it can create a lot of disturbance in the body, and it can also even lead to like mental illness and things, right? So that's why it's so important for us to keep ourselves and people we love and those around us, keeping our energy body open and clear so that as the pulsations come in, we can handle, our pranic tube can receive this energy, this pulse, this light that's coming in, and we can direct it towards something positive, towards something unifying, towards something beautiful. All right. So why was I getting into that? I don't know. I just wanted to share that with you because what they're showing me is we're on the we're on the edge. I'm not good with pronouncing the words sometimes of a great change. And that is so funny. Okay. I love how the cards work because this is Kali. And what does it say? Can you guys read that? It says seek change. Kali came into my life about a year ago. I didn't know who Kali was. I was just like, okay, whatever, Kali. Like you look up her picture, she's got blood hanging out of her mouth and like skulls all over her. And I'm like, angel lady. I'm like, ooh, okay. But she's amazing. Like she's the bomb, right? She's incredible. Like, oh boy, do we need Kali right now. So she's breaking down structure. She's releasing ego. She goes into the deepest parts of you and just yanks stuff out that you didn't even know was in there. And so to me, her energy is very much like Pluto. Pluto's very much like that. He's mysterious, he's intense, he's going to find those places in you that you just do not want to see. Somebody saying that she's also connected to Lilith. Yeah, right. It's also this primal goddess sexual energy that has been denied in our culture so much that we're just all starting to be like, oh, wait a minute, it's okay. Like it's okay to have that energy. It's okay to embrace that. And we don't have to see it as the shadow or the dark. We see it as our life force energy that's coming back online. And so in addition to this energy shifting and the happening, this vibration of Kali is coming in and she is like, you can't hide from me. There's nowhere to hide. And it's the same thing with Pluto. Like, there's nowhere, you can't get out of this. So if you're trying to hide something from yourself, it's going to come to the surface. Meaning, if you have a destiny, which we all have, if you have a blueprint, a template that you've been denying because you're afraid of something, let's say that you can't make money at it, or that you won't be good at it, or that you'll fail at it, or whatever it may be in your experience that you keep repressing and denying. Sometimes in class when I'm teaching, I'll give the example that I love to paint and I deny myself of that because I say, oh, I don't have time, or it's not productive, or I'm not good at it, or what am I going to do with it, or it's going to make a mess, or whatever it might be, right? All those excuses. Kali's like, no more excuses, girlfriend. Get out the canvas, get out the paintbrushes. And so whatever it is that you might notice within you that's deeply hidden, this Pluto transit, Pluto's like Kali, it will seek change within you. It will go into those deepest parts of self that you have not been willing to recognize, to come to terms with, and it will reveal it just because it cannot go into government or religion or medicine or any of those things to shake up or reveal things if it's not, and not do it to you. It's everything. It's across the board. Okay, so that's the Kali energy. Should we keep going with the cards? This is kind of fun. Okay, why not? Change of pace. Next one that came up, Earth Star. So this is key, right? We have to be grounded. And so even though we're losing Capricorn and we're moving out of it, we have to stay grounded in this chaos because things are going to move fast, this airy energy. And if we don't ground, we're just going to, it's like a hurricane coming in. We're just going to be whipped out. We're not going to be able to handle it. So super key to connect into the animal kingdom, the totems, the symbols, what they're saying to you, paying attention. Where I live, we're in a drought, a terrible drought right now. And so I've been going out and just putting water in the bird bath, and the deer are kind of looking thin and not so great. And the fox up on the hill was like kind of feeling like he wanted to come in the house last week. I think they're thirsty, they're hungry, all the berries are shriveled up, right? So just remembering to tune into our environment, what's happening? Can we connect with the animal kingdom, with nature? Can we be grounded? Can we spend time outside? Not to be so disconnected, because one of the things when I started to channel And one of the very few first things that Raphael said was that the water was going to be absolutely key in the coming years, and that there was going to be way too much water in some places and not enough water in other places. Well, we're really seeing that. I live in Doylestown, Pennsylvania. We've never had this kind of drought, like 40 days no water. Um, Never in my life. I've lived here my whole life. And other places, right? You're getting crazy floods and hurricanes and all of this stuff. And so when we are out of balance within our own energetic body, it's mirrored and reflected on in our external environment and vice versa. So as we come back into balance within ourselves and the water within our own body and the divine masculine and feminine within our own selves, and come back into more relationship again with nature and with the elements, whether it be water, earth, air, and fire, and we start to recognize them as an integral part of who we are, they also begin to come into balance. I know that's a pretty big statement and it's very zoomed out, right? And expansive to think about, but we cannot separate ourselves from the earth and the elements. We have to return to connecting. Like sometimes I'll be talking to people, I'm like, oh gosh, we really need rain. And they're like, rain? Yeah, oh, do we? The weather's been beautiful. I'm like, yeah, but we need rain. Like, so just so disconnected from what's going on. And I'm not judging them in any way, but that is that frequency that is really asking us to shift, to come back into reckon, realization and reconnection with nature and what's going on. So that's going to be huge. Okay, the next one we have golden disc of entanglement. This is going to be big. What does this mean? If you are enmeshed in relationships that are entangled or where you're codependent or you're in relationships that are repeating patterns over and over and over and you can't get out of it, and it's the same thing. This Kali energy that's coming in, this change that's happening, isn't going to allow this to continue anymore. So if you've been in like a status quo, like, oh, I'm just gonna keep putting it under the rug and somehow we're just gonna squeak by here and I'm not going to address what I need to address on an emotional level, and that's not happening. Because the next card that's coming in is igniting passion, coming back into our heart center and into heart coherence with one another. We have to come back into communicating heart to heart, authentic, open, free. We can't go into this hiding, putting it under the rug. Let's talk about it in 5 years, 10 years. I'm comfortable. All of that energy that we all do on different layers is going to like not work out with this new energy coming in. It's going to knock you down. So addressing that. Okay. I think that's a lot of talking. Should we keep going? I'll do a couple more. This is kind of fun. We never do this. Oh, all right. So we get ancient portal openings. This is about Göbekli Tepe in Turkey. I just heard that they've shut down so many of the sites, so much of the digging. The anthropologists don't want to go any further. Guess what? I'm sure why. They have found stuff they can't explain. And if they had to explain it, the timeline, which is funny because the timeline card was next, the timeline of our history then no longer is valid. Right? This is so much older when they do the carbon dating than they originally thought. And so it doesn't fit into the timeline. And so what does that mean? Well, we want things to stay in the timeline because that's how we operate. We can see that this is how it works. And somebody's like saying, but maybe it's not actually that. Maybe this is something else. Maybe there were people and beings here so long ago that we around the ice age, like things that we can't fathom, and it's wanting to come in. And so that's the ascension timeline. And I want to talk about timelines for a minute because timelines is a word that gets thrown around, I think, a lot in the spiritual community, like jumping timelines and what timeline are you on and all of that. And it simply is, what reality are you experiencing depending on what frequency you're holding. And when we talk about being on the ascension timeline, it means that we are consciously choosing to be a master creator of our experience, and we're moving forward, recognizing that everything that is unfolding due to the conscious intent that we have and the direction we are choosing to move in, versus the old frequency of destiny, or a sense of I am a victim to circumstances and life is just doing what it's doing and I'm all along for the ride. And so that frequency that we as a collective kind of bought into for quite a period of time, which is incredibly disempowering, but it's also great because you can just say, well, things happen. And they do, right? We don't want to get into a blame game of like, oh, everything in my reality I created, so I should judge myself or blame myself or feel bad about it. But when you do make the decision to consciously agree to the idea that everything you are experiencing is and has been created by you and for you, it changes everything. Like that's a paradigm shift that shifts everything. Like whatever it might be. Like I have a chronic thing I deal with regularly. I can be a victim to it. My mother had it, it's ancestral, it's genetic, it's structural, blah, 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 blah. I've tried everything, blah, blah, blah. Or I can take full responsibility that on some level, whether it's conscious or unconscious, my highest self, for whatever reason, has agreed to it, brought it into my experience for me to come to terms with what it in whatever way that means. It could be acceptance, it could be loving it, it could be healing it from a direction that I haven't been able to perceive yet. We don't know. But if I come at it from a place of I am a victim around it, and there's nothing, then that is not the ascension timeline vibration. So in order to be on the ascension timeline, no matter what it is that's showing up, we take on some level responsibility. Not saying, and people will say, okay, well, that's crazy, because what if you're like a 6-year-old and you get raped? I mean, like we can take the most drastic circumstances, right? How can that 6-year-old take responsibility? So obviously we're taking this out in a very broad perspective on a soul, deep soul level of what we have chosen to bring into our experience for our evolutionary growth in relationship to both the perpetrator or the victim in any circumstances, and the lessons that are learned in that, and the hardships and the traumas we may experience in our human experience. But how do we then find peace with that at some place and take responsibility for our healing process and journey along the way, rather than being the victim of it? And I know that's a lot. It's a lot to take in. It's taken me a long time to come in many ways to terms with that. And I'm not saying you should, or that I'm preaching that in any way, but the general overall concept of I am the master creator of my experience is incredibly empowering. And that is how we arrive on the ascension timeline. And so the victim consciousness with the Capricorn frequency that's more grounded, is easier to be in that. And Aquarius frequency is not going to allow it, because Pluto will come in and just blow that thing up. And so you're going to notice that a lot of people are going to shift in the way that they are operating in terms of their perception around everything. And so that's being on the ascension path, right? Coming into your mastery, coming into your mastery. All right, the next one that came up, plant medicine, another beauty, right? I think that if we want to relate this to what's happening with Capricorn moving into Aquarius, we're going to return to plant medicine, because the structure of traditional linear medicine for many of us hasn't been working. I went to the doctor yesterday for something, and he's a really, really wonderful man, regular GP, super nice guy. Nothing against him at all. I love doctors. They're great people, but he could not help me in any way. And I said to him, he said, "Tell me what's going on with you." And I said, "I could, but I know that you can't help me because what's going on with me is something chronic and it's not something linear. Like if I go to a doctor and I have a brain tumor, he can take it out and that's amazing. If I go to a doctor and I have a heart attack, he can do a bypass. That's amazing. I go to the doctor, I had a car accident and my arm is cut off. Yay, thank God they're there, right? I go to a doctor with an autoimmune disease. I go to a doctor with a chronic issue. I go to a doctor with something systemic. They have no idea what to say and they don't have any way to fix it. And that's just the reality of it. And more of us are having these experiences because our environment is so toxic and out of balance, and our food is filled with chemicals and poisons. And then we have our emotional component and all of that. And many of us are dealing with these issues. And so plant medicine is coming in because yes, it is there to bring its frequency to come into harmonization with us. I don't know if you guys have read those books. What are they called? There's a series of them. They have a black cover. They're from this woman in Antasia in Russia. And and she talks about how if you take off your shoes and you're barefoot and you're walking for long periods of time on your property, wherever you live, that the earth will pick up and connect to the bottom of your feet. It will start to sense what's wrong and toxic or not well in you, and it will start to grow the plants that you need to take to heal. That's how supportive the earth is. That's how much it wants to help us. That's how much the plants are there. And so we're going to start coming more into relationship again as we come back into balance with the planet, into union with her, to recognize that whatever it is that we need, she has for us. That's why so many people are doing plant medicine. Not that I'm saying go out and do ayahuasca or any of that. Maybe that speaks to you, but it has to speak to you. And I think that's what Raphael was saying. I think someone asked about it. The medicine, the plant, you have to be in connection and communication with it, and it has to speak to you, or the mushroom or whatever has to ask you and invite you to come into union with it so that you can have a connection and a relationship, and then it can move through your body and create healing. That's a very different way of approaching your relationship with plant medicine than I'm going to go take this drug and just get high and have a good time. Those are two super different things. And so we can turn to plant medicine to support us. And it can be incredibly valuable in opening up and awakening the pineal gland, the consciousness, new ways of perception, and healing the body. And so this is going to just really come up as we're moving into Aquarius, because we're going to have to return back to nature. It's the only way. So AI is going to get really intense and move in this direction, and our connection to nature is going to really go this way. And so we have to bring this in, like has to be married to the technology. Because if we forget this piece, then we're going to get lost in the technology. We're going to get lost in this whole way of being with like glasses on our head and some artificial reality. We have to come back to nature. So this is super important. All right. I think, oh, all right, we'll do one last card and then we'll call it. So the last one that we have is leadership. This card is Adama. If you don't know who Adama is, he's an ascended master from Mount Shasta. I've spent quite a lot of time in Mount Shasta. I find it to be a very magical place. Has his hand on this quartz crystal with the children inside. The children that are coming right now to the planet are wired differently. Their DNA is different. They're much more evolved. They're already operating at a different level. They're coming to heal us, to help us. They're incredibly beautiful. They will be the new leaders of the new world, and they will vibrate at a different frequency. And so it's so important that we honor them, we love them, we connect to them, we pay attention to them. And so the leadership is coming up from the youth. And so important that whether it be our kids that are in their 20s or 30s or teens or toddlers or newborns, that we support them because it is the new generations that we have to look to. And I mean, this is going to sound not very PC, but a lot of the old white men have to die. Like they have been controlling things for a very long time. And it was a terrible thing to say. I don't mean it like I love white men, like my whole family is that, right? I'm just saying that we've been in this certain construct and it's changing. We're becoming multicultural, we're shifting, we're becoming a melting pot in a new way. And the new generations that are coming up are wired differently and they have new perceptions and new ways of seeing things. And these babies, these star children are our future. They are our leaders. Okay, so I think that that's today. I'm not going to channel. I just shared as Kelly with the information that I have, which I wanted to do today. I felt like it. So I love you guys. And oh, a couple quick tips, 2 tips for Thanksgiving. One, if you need to put up boundaries or you need to set some kind of parameter so that you can have a great time, think about doing that. Think about texting everyone, say, hey, I'm so excited to see you guys on Thursday. Really looking forward to it. I know there's been a lot of things going on in the world, and some of us may not agree on things. So let's just leave that outside and come together in gratitude and love for our food and our family. And it just kind of puts the seed in, like maybe we can leave some of these discussions that are intense outside and just come together with what we do agree on and where we are on the same page and break bread together. And the other thing is a technique, and I'll share this real quickly with you that was shared with me, and I find it to be very powerful. Is that if you're going to be working, you're going to be connecting with someone that you have an issue with, and sometimes soul families, right? They're our greatest teachers. That's why they're in our family, because they're there to teach us, and we came into agreement to come in this lifetime with them. But that doesn't always mean it's easy. So you might be gathering with people that you see once or twice or 3 times a year, and there may be 1 or 2 people that kind of get under your skin or something, or not. Maybe everything is perfect and flowing easily. I hope so. But if you're feeling nervous or uncomfortable or you're worried about something or someone and you can't quite reconcile things with them, I encourage you to do this process where for a few days before you get together, to move into your higher self, right? And as you go into your higher self, and you know, guys should know how to do that through our classwork, but you want to connect with your I am that I am presence. And in meditation, go to the highest aspect of who it is that you are and connect and invite the highest aspect of their highest self to meet you. And then create a container, like you're in a garden or you're in a beautiful place together, and you can surround that area. You can put a sphere around you if you want, and you just go there. And then you share from the depth of your being, like your real authentic stuff that you need to say to them. Like, you make me feel this way, or when I'm with you, I feel that way, or what you said last time upset me, or I feel hurt about this, or whatever it is you might want to say, even if it's coming from a victim place or wherever it's coming from, or a story that you're running in your head, it doesn't matter. Just get it all out and just share it with them. And just know that you're sharing it with them on an energetic level and from their highest self, no matter how intense it is or what you say or how mean it might be, they will be able to receive it because their higher self does not take it personally, but it energetically receives it. And when you're done that, you just say, in all truth and love and faith, I love you and I send you on your way. And you take your hand and you just go here at the top of your head and you just cut the cords between you and them energetically. So you go all the way down your body from your crown to your root, and then you take your hand and you push it, you face it toward them, and you just clear it that way. And it's just a beautiful thing. You're not clearing or getting rid of your relationship. You're not getting rid of your relationship with them. You're not, you're just clearing the energy. and go back the next night and do it again and say more to them. And if you have nothing more to say, then you're done. But if there's more coming up, keep doing it every night until there's nothing left to say. And then it's really clear. And this is very powerful. Somebody shared this with me, and I want to share with you because I've done this before and I've noticed a big difference with people in my relationship. And like somehow it's like miraculously they're like friendlier to me and everything was fine. And we had a wonderful night. So just give it a try. It's just a tip for Thanksgiving. All right, everybody have a beautiful Thanksgiving. I will see you Wednesday before Thursday. Saturday at 11:30, we are doing a card reading, 90-minute fun class. Debitry will be there, who's the artist of the cards. I will be there. 3 of our Ascended Masters are going to come and share tips. And so we're going to have a good time. It's $12. If you want to come, come. If not, have a beautiful weekend. I love you, and I'll see you soon. Okay. Thanks, guys. Mwah. Bye, everybody. Love, love, love.